Great. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of your evening to come and talk about orientations with us. I do see some new faces tonight, which is wonderful. Welcome. My name is Martha Friend. I'm the Manager of Intercultural Education and Participant Learning at AFS. I'm joined by Emily, who works with me, and Donna and Kathy, who are on the Orientation Advisory Group with us and are volunteers. Do you all want to introduce yourselves briefly?
Sure, I'm
Yes.
Kip Krieger. Oops. Oh no, go ahead, Emily.
Okay. Hi, I'm Emily LaRocca. As Martha said, work in the Intercultural Education Department, and we are very excited to have all of you here with us. I've now been with AFS for almost 3 years, and every year gets just more and more exciting. So we're happy to have you here. Kathy, you can go.
Okay, I'm Kathy Krieger. I am a volunteer in the Western New York team, and that's close to Buffalo. And I also am the orientation coordinator in our group.
Hello from Wisconsin. I'm Donna Gady. I'm the volunteer co-chair for Orientation Advisory Group, and I am up in the World Flags area of Wisconsin. All right, I will just ask everybody, I am so excited. We have 27 on this call right now. First of all, it may seem like we're rushing through a little bit. It's because we want to give you plenty of time in your breakout rooms. That's what everybody says, we need more time. So if there's ever a point you need us to slow down or have questions, feel free to come off mute and put them in the chat. We have enough people we can monitor chat. I did say come off mute with this size group. Make sure you're muted just to make sure we don't get feedback and lots of extra noises so everybody can focus. Will this be shared with us later? Yes. Emily and Martha do an amazing job of every resource that we talk about tonight is going to be sent out in an email as a kind of a recap. And so we will make sure you get all of these resources. And if not, you had Emily's email when she started sending all the invites and things. She's been a great resource and she's really great about responding and sending out stuff. So feel free to send our staff members, Martha and Emily, any questions you might have. They're great help and they will also be teaching a lot of tonight. So let's talk about the orientations timeline real quick. Now, this is for hosting. This is not the study abroad timeline, but we're going to start off with the hosting side of AFS. We've already gone through arrival and post-arrival. Some of you, but not all, may have had a mid-year. And then the next thing we have on most of your calendars is the end of stay. It's been a couple years now that we used to call this kind of a pre-departure. So we still do notice that there are people that call it that. Please don't. Please try to change the wording to end of stay because Martha kind of cringes a little bit when we say that because end of stay, I'm going to be honest with you, is a required. So we want to make sure we're labeling it correctly. We usually recommend that 6 to 8 weeks prior to departure. And then following that is our departure logistics webinar, which officially as orientation volunteers, that is a responsibility of your travel rep. Can you help that person? Absolutely. We do recommend, we had this question, I don't know if anybody was in the travel meeting last night, but it did come up. Make sure that you do mention when your travel logistics webinar is at your end of stay so people can get that on their calendar and know the difference. They should be attending both because that departure logistics webinar is strictly travel, whereas end of stay has a little bit of different focus, and we will go over that. But this is the calendar. So today we're really focusing on that end of stay and a little bit on PDO or pre-departure for our study abroad students. Can the end of stay and departure logistics be combined into one meeting? Can it? No, because of timelines. 6 to 8 weeks before departures is our rule for end of stay. We want to give it's processing. It's really emotions. It's getting them ready to go. The departure logistics usually only happens about 2 weeks before they leave, because it is really those last minute specifics. Where do you meet at the airport? What are expectations of the airport? So not recommended. Please don't combine them together, because they really have two different goals. And if you put them together, it's also going to be way too much information. The other thing is the departure logistics webinar, most teams are asking that the host families participate in that too. So there's multiple sets of ears listening to the extremely important information. We know how well teenagers take the information to their parents, which they don't. I don't care if they're American or not. They're not great at relaying information. So a lot of times with departure logistics, we want those host families listening to it as well. And so we don't recommend that. And so Martha, do you want to go to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay, so as I said, we're going to talk about end of stay for a portion of this tonight. As we have done all year, we've been launching new materials for each of the orientations. Martha and Emily have done an amazing job of shortening what we were given from AFS International. It was very intense, very academic, and we wanted to make sure that we made it more user friendly. And so the other thing is we listened to all of you, and you didn't like just having a PowerPoint to work off of. And so we have gone back to the leader guide. So if you need something, I see my husband, he's in a different room. He's giving me a clapping for that one. That was all Martha and Emily getting that work done. But you wanted something in your hands. You wanted something to print out that's got everything that you could possibly need. And so we've gone back. There is a new end of stay leader guide. But remember, our goal really at end of stay is to debrief the students' experience so far, help them work through what has happened, and slowly make that transition to getting ready to go home. I saw in the chat, the leader guide is available on Help and Learning in the orientations part of it. So it is there. We can show you later exactly where it is. The other thing they can do is they can set goals for the remaining part of the program. You all know it. You're all, a lot of you are experienced volunteers. That last month, that last 6 weeks go really fast. And then they have this, I wish I would have done this one more time. I wish I would have gotten this done one more time. And so having them write down and set those goals is a great thing, a great activity to be doing at end of stay. It also, we let them prepare and say goodbye. How do you say goodbye? I think that's actually a song right now. And so, it's one of those things that it is processing. They are having a lot of big feelings at this time. Even a simple letter, that kind of things can be, as if they don't worried about it in person, write a letter. All of those things. We do a lot of potential challenges upon return. A lot of you have heard, like, how much time do people really want to talk about your experience when they didn't go on the experience with you? That kind of thing, kind of talking to them about that, reflection on our culture, and then just making sure they have takeaways from their exchange experience. And of course, as I mentioned, make sure you mention that departure logistics webinar. They really need to go to it. I think I was looking at chat. Emily did put a link to the leader guide and all of the resources in Help and Learning. There is a link there. I'm gonna do a teacher thing. Don't click on it yet. Please listen. Don't go surfing. I know a lot of you are doing that right now if you saw the link. But wait, we'll give you time to go see it. I'm a college teacher. I understand that as soon as you give people a link, they're gonna go start reading it, and some tend to shut down their ears. But let's because we're gonna actually go to an activity. So what we have is it's a Zoom tool that some of you may not have used yet. It's called a Zoom whiteboard. And if some of you use Padlet and that kind of thing, it's kind of like that. And so, but you don't have to go to different screens. So if this works correctly, Emily is going to launch the whiteboard. And what all I'm going to do ask of you is if you have done an end of stay, or even if you're a returnee um, and participated in an end of stay, what was the best thing that you did at it? What do you think makes the most impact? So this is the whiteboard that hopefully you can see. And as you get in there, you can move around. Now I'm going to draw your attention to a few things. At the bottom right, there is a Zoom button. You can zoom in and zoom out. If you type something, your type might be really small and you can't see it. Feel free to zoom yours in and out. It doesn't change it for the whole group. The other thing is on the left, there's actually about in the middle of that toolbar, there's a little piece of paper. It's a Post-it. Go ahead, if you click on it, you can put a Post-it with your on the board and you can type in your answer. So I see, oh, there you go. Some of you have already figuring this out. So I'm gonna be quiet a little bit, let you think. If you have questions, put them in the chat, but we're gonna let you populate this. So we have all of the great things that you are all doing at end of stay. The question again is, what is one of the things as a volunteer, or if you were an AFS student, that really makes the most impact at end of stay? What are the things you like to do?
I love it. Brian had put one in the chat already, so that was a good example.
For those of you that typing, Brian put one, they always have one of their study abroad returnees come and talk and share about the reverse culture shock. We are actually using a reverse returnee. Oh, by the way, you have to put our Brian on the schedule, Josh. He will be news to him. He will be joining us at our end of stay to talk about what happened when he went home a couple years ago. So
Donna, can you repeat how to do this one more time?
Sure. So on the left-hand side, there should be like a white toolbar, and about halfway down, there's something called a sticky note. It's a little piece of paper, a little square with a folded corner. If you click it and then click on the box, then you should be able to just type in your answer. Some of you are getting fancy with like different fonts. I don't know if your computers are doing that. I love it.
We've been doing Zoom calls a long time. I think people are getting pro.
I know. I have not used whiteboard yet, so this is news to me, but
That's great.
check off things on your bucket list. Absolutely. Making a goodbye plan and list of people to make sure you talk to. Allowed kids time for structured sharing. Yeah, we're going to actually talk about that and ways that you can practice that a little bit later. Remind students to thank host families, teachers. 100%. What was it, 2 years ago, Martha, that was the one thing that host families said that was really lacking was gratitude. Getting any feedback, and sometimes we have to teach the host families what feedback looks like or gratitude looks like at this age for these students. But we also need to remind the students what their host families are expecting. Brian, yes, it still is. Gratitude is super important. And a lot of us, I'm not going to just say the kids, some of us also need reminders. Even bringing the AFS thank you notes, if you've got a little extra time, and have them write something right there.
Yeah, that's one of the activities, is to write thank you notes. And we do have a separate supplement also on the website on Help and Learning, on gratitude, just talking about the cultural differences of gratitude. So that's a good thing to read and share as well. We can share that in resources in the follow-up email.
Who wants to claim credit for this one? Create a large 10-foot welcome poster for next year's kids.
Ooh.
Who wants to claim credit for that? Because I can't see names.
Yeah, we can't see who's writing them. So yeah,
nobody's claiming that one.
It's Katie True. She just wrote her name under it.
Excellent.
Awesome. I love that idea. Answer students' questions.
Mhm.
Plenty of time for student questions because they are definitely have them. And if not, by the end of the day, they have them. An elevator speech for back home. How about an
Katie,
elevator?
I saw Katie started to write that she has photos. If you do have those, please feel free to send them to me or Martha. We would love to see them and possibly share them because that's a wonderful idea.
Mhm.
Sorry to cut you off, Donna.
No, I was just mentioning, you talked about the elevator speech for back home. Sorry, we're still in hosting season, an elevator speech to recruit new host families when someone asks oh, I thought I'd like to host an elevator speech for that's not a bad idea either. Read a series of emails from former students over the course of 20 years. Was that Jan? How did I imagine Jan would have the 20 years of these notes? Wait, I think you have some, well, at least one of my old students in that pile. All right, we're gonna slowly, because again, we want you to have plenty of time in breakout rooms. We're gonna wrap this up. If you think about one later on, you can also put that in the chat or let us know about it. These are all great ideas, and we will make sure, oh, the airport luggage relay. Yeah, we're gonna make sure we can digest this and get it on paper and get you all the information because there's tons of great ideas. So Emily, if you want to stop share and we'll go back to Martha's presentation, or Martha can share again.
Okay, that was great.
I love those things. There's so many good ideas.
Okay, I think we're back. Okay, so we're going to move on to study abroad orientations now and just talk a little bit about the pre-departure orientation. There we go. Moved over finally. I'll hand over to you, Kathy.
Okay, thank you. All right, so study abroad orientation. So basically it's an overview, the overview of the pre-departure orientation. The main topics that get covered are program expectations and goals, cultural differences, self-reflection, support tools, and the student learning journey. And this is a question for you, Martha. The student learning journey, do they finish that before they go, or is it done while they're...
They finish the main chunk of it before they go. So the first piece of it is called Discover, and that's the largest piece. There is a smaller piece that they continue to do on program. It's a bit of a struggle to get them to complete on program, if I'm being completely honest. But we do push very hard for them to complete that first section before they leave because it's so rich in ideas and tools and ways that they can support themselves and really understand differences while they're abroad, that we found that it really helps them. So we get about 85% of outbound students participating and completing that section, which is a really big win for us.
That's good. So it also gives an opportunity for the participants to connect to the local team, meet returnees. The sending parents can be there and have an opportunity to meet other parents that we're sending, and it gives a chance for Q&A. I know we've done ours with our departure orientation. I thought I saw on the whiteboard that somebody else said they combined those two things.
Yeah, I think a lot more teams are doing that. Now, I just want to pause on that for a minute because, again, we've got smaller orientations now. We've got smaller groups of people, you know, post-pandemic. So bringing them together, I think, is something that we've heard many times from teams is so positive because they get to hear from kids who are currently on a program what that experience is like. And it's so much, it means so much more, I think, coming from their peers than it does from us. So I think a lot of teams have reported that being a great idea, if it's possible.
Yeah. And we did some things where the parents had a chance to break out and be by themselves, and it gave them a chance to talk about, you know, how frequently did they reach out to the kids? What can they expect? How, you know, what kind of situations they might run into. It was really a good chance for them to have a bonding experience. It gives the kids a chance to know other sending students that are going abroad And it also gives them a chance to meet with the host students that are here. And they really do seem to like doing that. We usually include them in lunch and maybe one or two of the activities. And then, does anybody have any great suggestions for what to do if you only have 1 to 2 students going abroad? How have others handled that?
Well, I have a suggestion, I guess, but I also have a question. So suggestion, I think traditionally only have a couple of students, or at least the past few years. And we have had returnees. We did just the sending with 2 students. We had returnees, two returnees come, so there was a good, balance of kids getting to talk amongst themselves. And then the parent, so they each had a parent come, and the person that we have actually facilitating the curriculum is a parent of a study abroad student. So, she's able then to give a lot more, kind of address the fears that people do have as they're launching their children out. Do you want me to hold my question, or can I ask my question now?
Oh, no, please ask your
Go for it.
question.
My question is, and this just came up because I see we have a possible student going for a summer, like a 3-week program. Because of the scheduling of that, do those students who are going for just like that very limited program, do they still do we still need to do an orientation for them?
So that's been our biggest question, and it sort of comes up every year. The answer is it's really kind of up to you. I mean, very short summer program kids might get a bit confused if you're spending a few hours talking about meeting a host family and, going to school and that kind of stuff. We do have a breakout session guide that you can do a breakout. Say if you have 8 kids and 4 of them are summer, you could break them apart and do 2 separate sessions with them for part of the time. The real value in a PDO is connecting students to their local team. If you think about our hosted kids come over as a group, they come to your team, they're embedded in your team. Our study abroad kids are a bit more sort of, in the wind, so to speak. So it's a way of anchoring them to you. So we value all kids coming to an orientation and finding a way to kind of answer maybe the summer kids' questions, a bit differently, and just really incorporating them into it. Maybe they only come for part of the time. Maybe they come for the fun kind of, if there's a potluck going on or something, so they're just connecting, but they're not there so much for the content piece. It's kind of up to you, but they don't have to come. The year and semester kids really should come. That it's much more important for them from a content perspective. But the summer kids, especially if you can see now, and we're going to go in the next screen to the My AFS widget, you can see the length of their program now, which used to be much harder in Global Link. Now it's much easier to see that in My AFS. So you can see if it's a 2-week program, it's probably going to have a group leader, and they're probably going to have a webinar that talks very specifically about their experience. So you won't be able to talk to that program and that experience in your PDO. But again, if you feel like it's an event or a day that's got lots of other things going on and it's just a great way for them to connect with their local AFS team, maybe they'll go abroad again in the future in a longer program. Maybe they'll become a volunteer. This is what we want to nurture and grow with anyone going abroad. So yeah, I hope that answers it. Even though it's a bit, all over the place of an answer, PDOs just sort of vary from team to team.
Yeah. The other nice thing about meeting with the study abroad kids is that when they come back in a few years, they may be interested in volunteering. That's what we are seeing, that they're interested in volunteering once they get through college. Does anybody else want to share their experiences with study abroad orientations?
Well, I just had a question. So our area team, the students are we have about maybe 10 students going out, but they're literally 4 to 5 hours apart from each other. So we offered them the option of coming to our hosted student orientation. We were going to do their orientation before, have an overlap. We did this last year and it worked out well, but we had more of our core students were closer. And then let them leave to do their drives home and then do the hosted student orientation. And the hosted students, there's more of a core of them. They're not quite as spread out. So this year, the 2 local kids found out afterwards have a swim meet, and it's their final senior swim meet, so they both can't come. And we asked, you know, if there's an alternative, we do it by Zoom. I had a kid ask me though, what's the difference between the one that he signed up for through AFS-USA to do the orientation and ours? And I couldn't answer that question because if what I'm hearing and what I agree with is the purpose is to tie them into the area team, we're not going to be able to do that because they're so scattered. And if we're doing it by Zoom, it really isn't tying them into the area team. So I just want to make sure we're not duplicating what's being done for them nationally by their Zoom orientations. Does that make sense?
So yeah, no, it absolutely does. And we do offer quite a lot via Zoom for all students, but it's not orientation. So it's not the same material that you're presenting to them. You know, there's one webinar they go to that talks about travel, literally about travel to their country. There's one that talks about the student learning journey and sort of having them just connect with each other and learn about what the online learning tools are that they're going to experience. There's one that talks about program logistics, visas, passports, things like that. All the stuff that the study abroad staff work with them on that are not questions that you guys are going to be able to answer or want to answer, right? So we get all of that out of the way with the webinars so they can come to your PDO and really talk about other issues and hear from local people that have gone abroad, you know, the returnees or parents. So it's not a duplication at all. And if you are running something online, it actually might be an opportunity for another team that has 1 or 2 students and isn't able to run a PDO to join with you. And then you could maybe get a few more kids at your Zoom one. So that's another thing. If teams are emailing us and saying, we've only got 1 kid, they're 6 hours away from where all the volunteers live, what do? We could maybe connect them with another team and they could meet some other peers that way as well.
Okay, so the purpose of this one is more still getting to know your area team and connecting with each other, and not so much the nuts and bolts of it because you all are taking care of that. It's more perhaps dealing with culture shock, getting I don't even like the term culture shock, cultural adjustment cycle. What's that?
Having the parents talk to each other.
Right. So more getting their questions asked and answered.
Yes.
And then talking with others that have already experienced the same thing.
Yep.
Right. And you're correct. It's cultural adjustment. You know, there are topics that, you know, that discuss those ideas too, and considering, you know, the differences in cultures and how they can be thoughtful and mindful of those differences. And, you know, it's not right, it's not wrong, it's just different. You know, that whole concept.
That I can do in my sleep. I'm a study abroad advisor
we
at
can
a
all
college,
do that.
so I do orientations for my real job. So
yeah. Excellent.
But I was just trying to understand the differences when that kid asked me, and I'm like, I really don't know what you signed up for, so I don't know what the purpose of it is.
Right. And we give them a lot of preparation, you know, and that's the other thing to point out is that also differentiates us from other organizations. We want our kids to go abroad with as much information as possible. You know, the things that might be repeated might be safety. It might be support. They might hear from you and from us that they're going to have a liaison or a contact person, that the chain of communication is incredibly important, that they shouldn't hear from their parents every couple of days. There's a couple of things that might get repeated, but that's okay. You know, there's really important things they need to hear more than once. But generally speaking, the content is very different.
Yeah, and it's definitely changed since I was a student abroad, where it was just the local orientation and then going to CW Post after we left our families. So, yeah, that's good to hear and understand. So it'll help me. We are doing our hosted student orientation Saturday. We're going to end up redoing our study abroad one because no one could come. And that's going to be completely on Zoom, but I haven't set a date for it yet because we're getting past Saturday and then I'll think about it.
Okay. Well, that's good for us to know. Emily, let's jot that down because if somebody else contacts us and wants is interested in doing a Zoom, maybe we'll connect you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
Let's move on to, we've got a couple screenshots of the study abroad widget. Do you want me to talk through these, Kathy?
Sure, if you'd like to.
If anyone hasn't seen this and you are trying to figure out how to plan a PDO, there have been changes in my AFS, which is why we want to show you this. When you first click on Study Abroad in that blue menu, this is what you're going to see. So now, rather than going to Global Link and combing through all these kids that are in various stages of applications, you can see very clearly these are your kids who are applying, where they're going, how long their program is, which school they go to, which gives you an idea of whereabouts in your team they are, and what sort of stage they're at. If you're involved in interviews or somebody else in your team is, they can see if somebody's ready or not ready for an interview. And then there's buttons on the right-hand side where you can click and see their profile, their program, their application. So it's much easier to access the information that you need. And then for orientation, the next screen, if you go to preparing, so at the top here with these little menus, in preparing, you're going to see the kids you invite to an orientation. So I'm going to look over here because it's too small for me to see. So at this point, an application has been sent to the partner, and it's now in partner review, partner accepted, or host family assigned. All of those stages should be invited to a PDO. Those are kids who filled out their application, it's been accepted by AFS-USA, and they're now in the process of being placed in that partner country. So they should all be invited. Again, if you see someone with that short 2-week program, that's someone that maybe doesn't necessarily need to be invited. If everyone else can make it and they can't, that wouldn't be a reason to hold it up. But this is the screen to look for in help in my AFS, and I hope that's really helpful to know who to invite. All right. Any other points about study abroad, Emily?
Oh, sorry, Carrie has a question that's but this doesn't include SP students. We also like to include them in orientations. This actually does include SP students. If you look under program, those little blue boxes, they'll have like CB. Like the first 2 students are CB students, and then there's Nisly about halfway down. So those students will be included in this widget, and they can be found.
Yeah, I would say definitely invite your SP students because they, I think, at higher rates become volunteers. That's just my anecdotal experience, but they tend to be very connected and will often become volunteers when they come back.
Martha,
right.
there was also a note from Katie about we could potentially use more information for parents in the PDO orientation because they're the ones that their child is leaving them for a while. That's why we do these, and the host family and natural family information is something that is on our goals list for orientation advisory group, but we will definitely note that and work on that to make sure, because I have also heard that the families feel like they don't get prepared enough.
Yeah, that is a good point. We do have one webinar now that's solely for parents, and it started last year, and we get really good feedback from that. And it's run by the support department, and they're basically talking through parents, what this is going to be like for them, what the stages are during program, why they shouldn't jump on a plane and go over there and try and fix problems for their kids, how they can cope with watching their kid deal with a difficult situation. So that was sort of the one thing that we have done, or the study abroad team has done, to improve the experience for parents of outbound students. I hear you. We don't have much content in the PDO right now. We are finalizing a leader guide for that too at the moment. So we'll definitely take that back and take a look and see if there's more that we can add in there. It's good feedback. Appreciate that. All right, I know we want to get to breakout rooms, so let's just quickly touch on something new that's upcoming. We always like to give you something new to look forward to in these calls. We have increased scrutiny from students being audited. This is an audit year, the year coming up. NH25 students is going to be an audit year. And there is scrutiny around monthly contacts, as everyone knows, and also orientation attendance. Emily does spend a lot of time emailing a lot of volunteers asking which students attended which orientations on which dates, and it's a huge amount of work for all of us. So we are trying to come up with a plan that's much simpler for everyone, and that's a QR code that can be scanned at the beginning or the end of an orientation. The students can scan in and say, okay, I'm this person, I'm at this orientation, and this is the date, and that will go into our system, and we'll see who attended what. Volunteers could enter it if you don't want kids having phones at orientations. But this is something we're sort of excited about. We're going to pilot it with a few teams at end of stay, see how it works. see what needs to be changed, and then hopefully roll it out to all teams at arrival orientation. And again, at that point, we'll ask for feedback, see how it worked for you, and keep working on that. But we think it will be easier than going into Global Link and going into the activity module, which of course we all want to strangle with our bare hands because it's the worst part of Global Link ever invented. We're trying to find that workaround. So look forward to that. We'll be sending out information about it, but we hope it will be much easier to log that attendance for your students. All right, we want to very briefly touch on training. We have talked a lot in the last couple of calls about building an orientation team, bringing on new volunteers, bringing on young volunteers, sort of building that bigger orientation team. And we want to build on that by really suggesting that volunteers take advantage of the trainings that we have. Foundations and peak facilitator training are two sort of levels of training. Foundations is sort of basic ICL information, and it covers a lot of the ICL topics that are covered in orientations. So if you had someone very new to orientations, that would be a good one for them to take. And as with both of these are the same, they're self-paced learning modules, videos, forum questions. You have usually about a month to take the course. You can join live sessions where you get to meet other volunteers from other countries who are also taking it. So that's a really good opportunity to connect sort of outside the US with other volunteers. And it's something that is offered by AFS International, but you have permission from AFS-USA to take these. So there's nothing you need to do. You don't have to pay for anything. You can just take these. So those cohorts are there. And then just flipping over to the peak training slide, this one is a sort of a next level up, and it's facilitator training. So if somebody had taken foundations, is really sort of getting into orientations, but feels like they don't have a lot of facilitator training or they want to hone those skills, this would be something for them. I actually completed it last month, just to sort of audit it and get a sense of what it is. And it's really good. It's not intimidating at all. It's great topics, great skills. And a lot of the volunteers that were on it were from all different countries and quite young. So I really would encourage, if you have some new young volunteers on the team, it's a great way to keep volunteers, to offer them training opportunities. You know, they will learn some skills here that they can maybe even use outside of AFS. So I do recommend this. We're going to provide you with the links for it. Please share it with your team. Even if you're not interested, maybe there's someone else in your team who is. And I know, Donna, have you signed up for Peak? Are you going to talk about that a bit?
I did actually. I have to really like follow through. If I recommend it for volunteers, I also want to have gone through it. And so who's going to join me? I'm going to do it in June. And so if you guys have a chance, sign up, come join me in June. I did notice, there is both the English version and the Spanish version. I will not be challenging myself to join the Spanish version. But you know what? Your young volunteers are looking for potentially resume builders. I noticed, I stumbled across it the other day. AFS on Help and Learning actually has an area called Build and Showcase Your Skills. And it talks about putting these types of training and their volunteer work on their resumes, on their LinkedIn accounts. Go ahead and actually talk about what you're doing with AFS and these young volunteers. There's an interesting quote on here, or a statistic that said 40% of hiring managers view volunteer experience as the equivalent to formal work experience. So things like this for a lot of people is great to put on your resume. As well as I just figured out, a lot of you are educators, and I'm thinking this could also go on my CV, because once I get done, it's a facilitator training in intercultural learning, which is a extremely hot topic for a lot of educators. And so who's going to join me? I'm curious. Let's do hands. Let's see how well you've done. How many of you have actually done the foundations training? See if you can find your little hands or your own hand. I see some of it. Jan has, Bill's hand went up. I always recommend that. It was actually, I did it a while ago. And I almost want to retake it, just to see how well it is. I will tell you, when you fill out Peak Training application, it's going to ask you about your ICL training experience with AFS. Emily can navigate Global Link and give you that information. I had to stumble through today, and then was a little upset about how long ago I had taken some of my trainings and how many years I have. It seems like it was just last year, but it was not. And so, all right, we have to have time for breakout, so we're gonna move on.
Yeah, but we will include in tomorrow's email how to find your trainings in Global Link. That's a good thing. And then you mentioned the build and showcase your skills. We'll find that and link that as well, because that's a really helpful one. All right, we've got affiliations next, but I'm thinking maybe we keep that for the end and jump into our breakout rooms now. What do you think?
I
I think we
agree.
can come back to
Yep.
that. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Let's
So
do
while
that.
Martha's setting this up, these are going to be, there's 3 breakout rooms, and these are going to be the topics. Share a success story on recruiting a new volunteer or returnee and retaining current orientation volunteers. Or how do you manage geographic distance when planning orientation events? And the last one is, how do your coordinators delegate tasks effectively so they are not doing it all themselves?
All right, we've only got a minute. Well, we're over by a minute, but we're going to wrap up. Emily's going to talk about affiliations really quickly.
Yes, so within the next few weeks, after end of stay, I will be sending out the yearly email to everyone to see what the affiliations are going to be for the upcoming cycle for NH25. So this includes orientation coordinator, arrival orientation coordinator, all the orientations, but we also have a new affiliation for just orientation volunteers. So this is for anyone who is involved in any way in orientations. This could be they come and they help set up. They come and they help pass out food. They could even come and facilitate any role that they have. We would love to give them the orientation volunteer affiliation because we see a lot of value in all of our volunteers, but also this could also lead to them becoming long-term volunteers, becoming maybe even a coordinator. Even with this affiliation, though, all people who have the orientation volunteer will have to have taken the Department of State training and AFS Basics, which was formerly the HSA training. So that's still required. But to add this affiliation, please either email me. I am very happy to do it. And I'm also happy to change or add affiliations for anything from orientation coordinators to end of stay to study abroad. Or we also have some directions linked as well if you want to add the affiliations yourself. But again, I am more than happy to do it. Sometimes it's easier just to have it all in one spot. But so send me an email, and I look forward to hearing from all of you in a few weeks.
Great. All right. Well, our last slide is always resources. We're going to share these slides, so all these links will be active for you when you receive this in an email. And these are mainly things we've talked about, obviously our orientation materials, end of stay. We do have energizers and icebreakers as a separate document. If you want to do different energizers and icebreakers at your events, you want to supply those. Preparing to return home, help and learning for hosted students. That's a really good page to share with your students. They still have access to help and learning up until they leave. I also added in here early return orientation session. This is probably a conversation for another call, but you know, we have talked in the past about onboarding host families that come to us late because they've missed the host family orientation. This kind of looks at the other end of that. If you've got kids that are early returning, you know, sometimes those students need a way to sort of process their experience, the reason they're going home early, and the host families if it's an abrupt end for them. So there are some materials to have that discussion. Might be better led by a support volunteer, depending on why the early return is happening, but also might be good for an orientation volunteer. So that's worth a look. And then our newsletters, you know, please keep that link handy. We do send those out every quarter. Please share them with anyone who's not receiving them. That's another reason for the affiliation. You know, if we can get everyone who's even remotely involved in an orientation with an affiliation, they'll all receive our newsletter and sort of feel more part of the community. So that's pretty much it. We will, as I said, send out an email with all these resources. If anyone wants to hang around and ask questions and stay longer, we're going to be here and we can do that. But if not, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're always so grateful to have such a good group. And good luck with your end of days and pre-departure orientations.